big sky, big potential. In association with Mills and Reeve, this is Eastern Promise. Achieving more together. Welcome to the Eastern Promise podcast. Last week, we brought you Beacon for Rare Diseases, a Cambridge-based charity formed out of pharmaceutical excellence. And this week, the spotlight shifts to the fabulous food science of Norwich. Formed by Sheng Qi, Professor in Pharmaceutical Material Science and Technology at the University of East Anglia, and John Farley of iBoxit, EdiForm represents the evolution of food, pharmaceutical and material science that could only come out of Norwich and the east of England. We think of 3D printers creating physical artifacts, from toys to tools, but with printed food. EdiForm takes material science to a lip-smacking new level. So get your taste buds ready for EdiForm. I'm your maitre d', Mike Rigby, and that's what's on the menu for this week's Eastern Promise. Previously on Eastern Promise,
would essentially use advanced material to fabricate lenses that meet specific patient needs. With this new technology, obviously, it offers an opportunity to fabricate these lenses quicker and more affordable. And bringing these two together, you can envision that sooner or later, we can offer a personalized lens to all patients.
Dr. Aram Saeed told us about how advances in 3D printing coming out of the University of East Anglia were revolutionising the treatment of cataracts, with bespoke interocular lenses replacing the one-size-fits-all option that's been around since the Second World War. EdiForm are not just printing out the next chapter in dementia care. They are pioneering technology that has so many potential uses, particularly in fields where it's vital to ensure your team, your squad, your crew have access to the nutrients that will maximise their performance, delivered at exactly the right time. The mind reels at the possibilities of 3D printed food. But don't just take it from me. Let's hear first from EdiForm CEO John Farley.
I have another project with another company called iBoxit where I'm working with Sheng Qi, and Sheng Qi is an incredibly clever professor. And we talked about 3D printing because one of the things that she specialises in 3D printing pharmaceuticals. And we talked about how we could actually make a difference and make a change in the medical world by 3D printing food. So we formed EdiForm just over a year ago. Myself, I'm the CEO, Sheng, and Ken Tam. And we've created the company and we're looking to make a difference.
So anyone who's sort of looked on the EdiForm website, which is at, I put you on the spot now, I'm very sorry.
Yes, it's ediform.co.uk.
Ediform.co.uk, and they'll see various items that have been printed out. But tell us about sort of the wider implications of the 3D printing in terms of care and care homes.
So 3D printing food is incredible because you can virtually do anything you want. So we are concentrating initially on trying to support the nutritional issues which dementia sufferers have. And so when you go from sanity to dementia, you have a very significant shift in your taste buds to sweet things, even if you didn't have a sweet tooth before. So therefore, you're more inclined to eat something that looks or represents a cake or a sweet or something like that. So unfortunately, when you have dementia, the big problem is you can't eat with a knife and fork, and you also only eat finger food. we looked at it and we thought the only way we can come up with a solution for this is to create something which is shaped like a sweet or a cake, and then within that put into it fibre, protein, micronutrients and nutrients which will sustain them for a day or however long it's predetermined, but it will reduce the position of suffering from malnutrition. And one of the issues is that dementia sufferers, particularly when they are suffering from malnutrition, become angry. That impacts on their quality of life, but more importantly, it impacts on those who are looking after them. They become violent, they become aggressive, and that isn't good for anybody. So we thought that if we could do something and make a difference in that sphere, it would be huge. And nobody is looking at that particular market at the moment, and which is another reason why we tackled it.
I'm just really interested in how you sort of take that approach and sort of your next conclusion is, 3D printing of food. I mean, we've seen on the website the kind of you've done lots and lots of intricate shapes in a brown material. Is that some chocolate flavour?
That's chocolate.
I thought so.
Yeah.
So, no, it doesn't come like that. It's just the stuff as it comes out. But no, that's incredible. So, what is the benefit of the 3D printing technique?
So, the benefit of 3D printing is that you mitigate waste because you use all the food that you require. So you can create nutrients, you can get nutrients, micronutrients, fibre and protein, and actually create something which is dense and compacted into a shape, which means that you don't have to have multiple pieces of food to satisfy your situation. So if you think about where it could go, if you're a fitness fanatic and you want to have a high protein diet, instead of having to have 3 meals a day of chicken and rice and salmon and rice or whatever it is that you need currently, you can actually create 3 protein bars or 3 fibre bars in a day from your machine and feed yourself, and you'll get the same effect. Wow. So ultimately, if you think about where this could go worldwide, the big problem is in places like Gaza and Lebanon, where we've got wars, where people are struggling for food. You could actually print out something which will sustain life for a day with all the things I've just said, and it's very simple to produce. You can print it flat, ship it anywhere, it's very light, and you can actually sustain life.
Wow. Print it flat, you say?
Yeah.
So, I'm just trying to get, because we've all seen sort of 3D printers work, and they come in these days, the ones that work on sort of solely on plastic. So you can get sort of varying, from the high-end kit right down to the little one with a sort of reel that does it as it goes. So when you sort of crack open were you to crack open the specific food-specific 3D printing machine, because it's no different from, I suppose, from any of the other technology we use to prepare food. But what actually goes in the back in terms of the tank, if you see what I mean?
Okay, so you have a multiple nozzle situation, so you can actually inject into a shape. So fundamentally, it's all about shape. So you're creating a shape, and you're using effectively a paste. So it's just like icing a cake, but instead of using icing, you're using food source, which gives you what you need, i.e. fibre, protein, nutrients, micronutrients. And by being able to create a shape means you can do virtually anything. So, if children won't eat their greens, you can create a Pokemon sprout, and you've got more chance of the child eating that. So it's really using shape, colour, and texture, because the other thing which is important with dementia is obviously they suffer from dysphagia and swallowing difficulties. By 3D printing it, it's soft and it's easy to digest, and it goes straight into the bloodstream. So it's very, very effective.
The market hasn't provided those options, at least not in an affordable form in most high streets. It seems to be quite a specialised area, but you've really kind of, I think, seized upon a need, which is sort of fundamental to any kind of, I suppose, any kind of commercial endeavour. But so, where is EdiForm today? Where are you sort of sitting at currently, and what are the next steps going forward? And how can the East of England support you to make this huge difference?
So where we are at the moment is that we currently have a number of recipes for the dementia sufferers' food. We have a prototype machine, and we are now looking to partner with a care home, or we'd like to partner with the Quadrum to do a actual study of human behaviour. We can't make any clinical aspirations because we don't want to go down that route, but what we want to do is to see how eating the food we can produce affects the life of a dementia sufferer or an elderly person, whether they can sleep better, whether they have indigestion or whatever it might be, but to understand what differences by having a dense product actually makes, because you're actually you're packing into a small shape a huge amount of energy effectively, and it'd be interesting to see how that works. And we're currently now bidding for an Agri-Tech grant, which is a specific East of England Innovate UK grant, and we're hoping that we can be successful in that and take this project forward.
Wow, I mean, there's small wonder you want to partner with the Quadrum, because so that they're all about the impact of food on the body and various kinds of food and linking those together. I mean, I think it's not well enough understood, is it? I mean, when we visited, I think in one of our episodes, I think it was 77, and we brought over a colleague, Tammy Dugan, hello Tammy if you're listening, from who's head of life science and healthcare partnerships at the University of Cambridge, and she was hugely impressed by the Quadrum. But as I say, they have that level of deep understanding about how the food we eat affects the body. How, for example, things like we got plant-based food that's better for the planet. Yes, great, it's better for the planet, and we have to look after the planet. Do we know enough about what that food is doing to us as humans? So there's lots of things that need to be considered. So I'm sure that the Quadrum will be not backwards in coming forwards and talking to you about that. So, I mean, in terms of, I'm just trying to think, when you've got one of these machines on the desktop, do you sort of have to have it connected to a computer as it tells a screen on the front, and you sort of go, I want that one, and all that one,
yeah,
and
so
push go?
It's very much similar like an air fryer.
Really?
It replicates the same principle in as much as you just point and shoot. You just key in what you want and it creates it. Because all you're doing is creating a shape. And providing you use the multiple nozzles and you put the right ingredients into those nozzles, you will end up with what you want.
So the specialised machines, one assumes,
yes.
Not just,
Yeah. And that's why we went down the route. We were very fortunate. We were given some support, pre-seed funding from the research park, which allowed us to create a prototype machine and also to do some prototyping in the recipe department. And then from that, we've been able to create what we want. Now we want to actually take that to a desktop machine so that it's available to anybody, so it can go into a care home, it can go into your house, it can go into a hospital. I mean, the food wastage in hospital is significant beyond belief, and this would obviously go a long way to reducing that, and it's a lot cheaper because you're condensing everything into a small shape.
One assumes that Mr. Bloggs on, in the the Cossey ward, let's say, at the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital, or one of the many other fantastic hospitals in our region, he needs these particular nutrients, and then the healthcare assistant or whoever just goes to the machine, goes blip, 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 and off it goes. I mean, how long is it take to sort of produce? I mean, I suppose it obviously will depend on exactly what it is you're producing, and some things will take longer and be more intensive and detailed. Do I want to use the word detailed than others? So it's sort of something fairly simple, like, for example, you talked about the things you can print out as sheets to go to Gaza, and when you're trying to survive, you're not looking for a 4-star fine dining experience. So something like that, for example, how long would that take to produce in a sheet, or does that depend on the machine?
So there's two aspects there. If it's a desktop machine, you're talking about seconds, minutes at most to create something which you would eat. If you're talking about industrial, then again it's seconds, but you're obviously talking about a bigger machine. The great thing about 3D printing is that you can bespoke the nutrition to the individual.
Yes.
So you can have one machine on as a desktop in a care home, and you can actually create the food for every single patient bespoke to their requirements. And that is the greatest flexibility you can have.
Thank you, John. It's a very Norwich thing to combine this materials excellence with the city's undoubted leadership in food science. However, that's just the tip of the 3D printed iceberg. I asked EdiForm Chief Scientific Officer and Professor of Pharmaceutical Material Science and Technology at the University of East Anglia, Professor Sheng Qi, to tell me more.
I find myself, I'm an engineer by training, which means I love be able to do things, make things, and be able to see it as a product. I think that is really the reason why I also started EdiForm with John and Can, is I really see there are science and the principles of science can be translated into making better products for people. Possibly the population has been not ignored, but finding challenging, finding good solutions for nurturing them for their specific food need.
So, as an engineer by background, in the onset of the introduction of sort of 3D printing and 3D printing techniques, I mean that's absolutely raced ahead just in the few years that it's been kind of in the public consciousness. But when did you sort of become aware of its wider implications, and especially in terms of what you're doing with EdiForm, but not solely about that, but just the scope of the things to which it could be applied?
When I started doing 3D printing for pharmaceuticals, so that is really my research background, which is a really highly regulated and very highly quality controlled products, and that is back in maybe around 2016, and the whole reason my research group started doing it is because we are specialized of making so-called extruded materials for traditional type of pharmaceutical products. Like once you extrude them, you mill them into powders, then you make them into tablets and capsules. And this extrusion process is really the process you can make material you can fit into 3D printers, and that's really the time we start, not us, but the whole field starts thinking, actually you could really personalize and tailor the medication, which currently everybody buying the same box of same dose and same strengths of medications for everybody who has very different, our own body has very different response to different type of medications, to different strengths of the medications. Why can't we personalize it? And that's exactly what the whole field for health science as well as NHS vision. 2016 NHS published a white paper for personalized medicine to be realized within the system by 2025, which kind of behind, but good reasons we know why that is.
Yes, we know why. Everyone gives that as a reason, but I think, go ahead.
But the way 3D printing, the capabilities, because it can uniquely build in and implement very sophisticated microstructures or different type of structures you cannot manufacture using any other traditional manufacturing method, definitely not by tableting and capsule. So those structures can give you very sophisticated functionalities. For oral medication, for example, you'll be able to control where the drug going to release, how long it's going to take before it be released, or how long it will last. And that does have very important implications in how well your body will absorb the drug and when your body will absorb the drug. And those are very, very important for treating a disease, relieve the symptom at the right time when it comes, as well as maximize how much your body can absorb the drug and not giving you side effects or minimize the side effects. So that's the whole point of why we want to tailor and personalize the medicine. And another reason is a lot of people with multiple disease conditions, they often take many different type of medications in one go. So I used to work with an liver patient group. I talked to one lady, she just had her liver transplant, and she said she takes 7 different medications because she not only just a liver transplant, she's diabetic and she has cardiovascular conditions. And she'll be eating her whole breakfast are just tablets. if you could reduce the amount of tablets, these patients taking, even just by half, their quality of life will be improved significantly, as well as how well they stick with the treatment will be improved too. So that's another really application of this 3D printing is can you combine a lot of different medications into one unit or reduce the number of units is needed for those patients. And that's what 3D printing can do. We currently have a EU project. We are trying to design a single tablet that has a multiple micro compartment where we fit different drug into it.
Wow.
So we have a very precise way to dose micrograms, milligrams of powders as well. So so it's all 3D printing gives that space of freedom for design things. If you could think of it, you possibly could print it.
So you're not just you wouldn't be just taking one medication. You're practically taking that entire shelf of the pharmacy.
Correct.
In one tablet. Amazing. Yeah. And you've got that. You've given yourself that level of control as well.
Correct.
Haven't you?
Yeah.
Wow. That's so transformative. To have that, and as you say, not only have you got to address various different conditions, because people don't just have their liver taken out without, or the kidney, and as you say, without any other, implications or and the reason they needed it taken out in the first place. But you're possibly also in a place where you've got to take the drugs in a certain regimen because so they don't counteract each other.
Correct.
Which again you can control, and that's. Have you considered you must have done how transformative that can be for people as well as hospitals?
Yeah, so we do realize that when we talk to patients, that lady, she was asking me, so when this technology will be ready, because I can't wait any longer, she's very kind of feeling she really wants this. This will massively change the quality of her life. So we're trying really hard. But it's not only ourselves. It's a whole field, and there's many research groups are trying very hard. Our current challenge is the regulatory barrier. And that's where the food is much easier. And the food still can use the same principle concept for 3D printing, taking advantage of, you can combine multiple type of materials into one. And you can put them in different places within one unit. With one piece of the cake, you can have the proteins and the micronutrients, different types at different places if that is needed. For example, for the purpose of giving a better texture, or giving a better taste, or mask a certain unpleasant taste for certain compounds. So that's why we're taking 3D printing into food. Again, we're not the one and only and the first doing this. There are many research groups and institutes doing it. Yesterday I was at a food conference.
Yes.
The nutrient event, the whole Norwich and NRP are presenting. We were very, very proud having a good looking stand and a lot of interest as well. So so in few of the European countries, they have kind of a not-for-profit but proper dedicated research institute on the topic of how you can 3D print food, to be used in different scenario, like in military applications, as well as for personalized nutrition. Which are, you can understand why people are thinking those applications, but I think our application is really, for us, is important is because we really can recognize that is a gap for that very special type of population. Their food need has not been addressed.
The mind reels at the possibilities because, as you say, it's quite easy to imagine a situation where, each soldier, an officer, comes up to the machine, puts in their own personal code, and they get a bar of whatever key to their specific nutrients. And possibly, I hesitate to use the word regrettably, but one can imagine that there's a lot of people in London, Brussels, and Washington DC be very keen to see that technology come forward. But then again, moving on, you've got sport as well. In terms of what interested me was, you're talking about regulation. Is there a kind of a hierarchy or an order to the regulatory approvals you need to get? Because, if you get one, will that open the door for the other? Because you've obviously got the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration in the US, you've got European Commission, I would imagine, whichever European agency controls that. You've also got the domestic one here in the UK. Mm-hmm. Is that easier if you get the other two? I don't know how. Tell us how.
I guess it's very much depending, at least for the medical and pharmaceutical products, it's very much depending on which region you want to operate and sell your product. So if you want to have your pharmaceutical product sold in US, you definitely have to go through, FDA.
Yes,
so for food, I think the regulatory framework is slightly different. At least seems to be very much depending on the ingredients you're using. So if you are using a novel ingredient, so European Union have a whole process of how to classify as being a novel food. If that is the case, a lot of new extracts and ingredients, then that is a very difficult barrier to overcome. Sometimes take 10 years before your cricket proteins can be proved it can be used for human consumption as a product because it's classified as a novel food. But if we're using all the same, safe ingredients has been used in the past, I don't think there's a huge regulation, or at least I haven't understood completely yet, to limit what method you use to cook it. And that's why I think for this particular application EdiForm is exploring, we haven't got the same barrier as, for example, the pharmaceutical. If you want to use 3D printing to make pharmaceuticals, the barrier there is the regulatory body would ask how you can be sure the quality you produce is consistent and accurate. And in the past, we make 10 million tablets. We take 100 of them. We test them to demonstrate they are consistent and they are accurate. But if we're printing 30 personalized tablets for a month for the patient, you can take another 10 out to test them.
Right. Yeah.
So that's where the regulatory body currently is still working on, is how you can get the appropriate framework to regulate this particular new manufacturing method, which doesn't seem to be the major issue for food industry in terms of getting the food to the end consumer.
Well, you mentioned we talked about the FDA. I probably shouldn't say this because I found out yesterday that another day before that out of every 5 people listening to this show, this podcast, one of them is in the US. My understanding is, and do write in and correct me if I'm wrong, that under the US system, the maximum number of insect parts you can have in a candy bar is 8. But that could be wrong. As I say, that could be wrong, and I hope for the sake of the enjoyment of American consumers, it is. Where was I going to go with this before I segued into insect parts in chocolate? John and I, we talked earlier about, and I know you've sort of, as we've done on this show in the past, talked about the power and the unique nature of this alignment of food and food science, food innovation here in Norwich. As I say, we are in the Modern Life Cafe on in the Sainsbury Centre at the University of East Anglia. What's your view of that? What's your view of how much more can we do to bring that together and push that forward and let everyone know that if you want to look at food innovation, there's only really one place you want to be, and that's here in Norwich.
Yeah, I think it's really the ecosystem, and when we start thinking about an idea, we actually start with where we're getting the raw material, and we were thinking about the local farmers and using up all the produce they make. They make a huge amount of produce which are all good in terms of nutritional levels, but a lot of them don't make into supermarket if the supermarket is their buyers. It's because they're not pretty enough and they're not fitting the right size. So it allows us, in that sense, because it's agriculture rich region, give us that supply chain we can build already. Not just we have an idea, but we also have a few strong supply chain we can rely on, and the knowledge, which I'm an engineer, I know how to make things. I know how to make material work, if I know what should go into a recipe. But the Quantum Institute scientists, they are the expert. They have the data, the access to the national data for nutrition, and those are the people who can tell you if you want to formulate a particular recipe for a particular patient with certain nutritional needs, then those are the people you go to. So I think it just shows you going from the whole way, from growing a species and raw material down to developing a product and design a product. We have all the expertise within the region and all the materials and the knowledge, so that's why it is the place to go.
Thank you so much to Sheng Qi and to John Farley. And you can check out their other material science collaboration, iBoxit, at iBoxit.uk. That's iBoxit.uk. I've been aware of EdiForm for some time, and so it was a real pleasure to hear their story and to be able to share it with you. All from the fantastic surroundings of the Modern Life Cafe at the Sainsbury Centre for Visual Arts on the UEA campus. And now, this. Presents Galore, East Anglia's most spectacular Christmas fair, is back for 2024. The 3-day Christmas shopping extravaganza will return to the stunning surroundings of the Rowley Mile Racecourse in the international home of horse racing, Newmarket in Suffolk, on Friday the 29th of November and running until Sunday the 1st of December 2024. Offering feel-good shopping and a chance for visitors to support local and independent businesses at such a wonderful time of year, organisers are pleased to give even more choice to shoppers by welcoming a huge number of new stalls and businesses to the event. You can browse over 120 beautiful boutique stalls and immerse yourself in the atmosphere, sights and aromas of Christmas. Presents Galore is a treasure trove of unique gifts and experiences with something for everyone. Discover interiors, clothing and footwear, jewellery and accessories, food and drink stalls, outdoor living and gifts for children, including toys, clothes and accessories. You can even now hear the children going, "Not clothes and accessories!" A full list of exhibitors can be found online at www.presentsgalore.org. Last year's event raised over £78,000 for 3 chosen charities, and this year, Presents Galore will once again be supporting the Cambridge Children's Hospital, Newmarket Charitable Foundation and the excellent National Horse Racing Museum, with all proceeds being donated to these local causes, including 100% of all ticket sales. Tickets are now available, and shoppers can enjoy the Christmas fair for just £8 per adult if they book online, and £10 per adult on the door. Blue Light card holders can pay £6, ID required, and under 16s are free with an accompanying adult. You're going to want tickets, and they can be purchased via www.presentsgalore.org or by visiting the National Horse Racing Museum gift shop, found on Palace Street, Newmarket. And that's it for episode 115 of the Eastern Promise podcast. I have been Mike Rigby, and will be so again next week, albeit with a disguised voice, because in its new regular slot is Crowdsourcery, the greatest community building tool ever conceived, that's fronted by me and called Crowdsourcery, will now take the 5th slot in every 6-episode run of Eastern Promise. That means more bad jokes, terrible puns, random sound effects, And more recommendations for everything you love about our region, from Southwold to St Neots, Watford to Wells next the sea. The encyclopedic ensorcelment of the crowd sorcerers has you covered. Next week comes the edition meant for Halloween, but delayed by a defunct laptop that, appropriately, has now been brought back from the dead. Yes. Well, all that and more. So, until then, bye for now. To hear other episodes of the Eastern Promise podcast and to find out more about what we do, go to our website at easternpromise.org.uk. Eastern Promise is a Priorscroft production in association with Mills and Reeve, achieving more together.